We meet in the space between parts. It is a space of inertia, where we suspend all limiting ideas of human potential in an authentic effort to move from darkness to light by discovering the true nature of reality. Welcome back to the Absolute Reason Podcast. I am jONE, your FreaQy Philosopher, and this is where we further discover and explore the potent power that is sacred physics, also known as spiritual intelligence. But before I start posting more of the lessons I have prepared, I thought it wise to at least do a bit of an introduction video so that you can see I'm real. You see, I've got ears and smelly armpits and all sorts of human things happening. I am definitely not AI generated. But I also thought I would take this time to explain to you where I come from and how exactly I ended up in this position and what is it that I would like to achieve through the podcast of Absolute Reason. So, it's quite a simple story. You see, I was born on 14 March 1982 in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was born into a strict Christian Afrikaans family. This means that my baseline consists of a deep Christian upbringing, but also a very Afrikaans, bombastic and very direct way of communication. This is how I was raised, this is my culture, and this is what you will experience. But it also means English is my second language, and I'm busy learning a third language, Zulu. So I'm sure you'll hear a little bit of Zulu as we go along. But it was really at the age of 11 where my spiritual journey started. You see, I went to school that day, feeling fine, no sicky symptoms. I was fine, I was good to go. But it was around mid-morning where I started feeling quite ill. A major headache, I felt nauseous, a bit dizzy. I was just not myself. Also a bit of a buzzy feeling all over my body. So off I went to the nurse's office and asked them to please call my granny. I wanted my granny to come and pick me up. Well, the teachers had to take a moment or two just to poke and probe this little creature in front of them to make sure that I'm not school sick. Because let's be honest, the symptoms are weird. Plus, if you get to know me a little bit better, I did not like school. So if I could find a gap to skip it, I would take it. But this was not the case that day. I was really showing serious, funny symptoms. So after the poking and the probing, they finally phoned my Granny Alice, and Granny Alice comes and she picks me up. I was happy, but I was still feeling the symptoms. It was only after about an hour or so of getting to my granny's house where I started feeling better. I still wondered, was I maybe school sick? And I'm like, nah. I wasn't school sick. I know I was feeling sick. So, must have been a bug. I'm feeling better now, so let me go play some TV games. Shame. My poor granny, she still made me pea soup, because soup makes you feel better when you're sick. The problem is, I didn't like peas then, and I still don't eat peas today, unless you hide it really well in my food. I still remember I took a couple of bites and ended up feeding the rest to the dogs. And now at age 42, I can tell you, I still feel a little guilty about feeding the soup to my dogs, or to my granny's dogs. And the reason for that is, well, I was in the lounge playing TV games, feeling a whole lot better, when all of a sudden I heard this commotion coming from the kitchen. The commotion was followed by a big thud. This is where I paused the game, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to go check things out, but I will come back and obviously finish my game. It was as I entered the kitchen that I realized what was happening, to a certain extent, I guess. You see, I walked into the kitchen and what I saw was my granny's dying body on the floor. She was on the phone, and the conversation, wherever it led, triggered a heart attack. The kitchen was also of the type of layout where, in order for me to leave the house to go and look for help, I had to step over my grandmother's dying body. And as I did that, I recall feeling a moment of tick, tick, tock. Just perhaps that was not school sickness. Just perhaps it wasn't a fleeting virus that made me feel ill, wanting my granny nearby. But just perhaps this was spiritual intuition, triggering my body, forcing my body into a particular action. That action being, go to your granny's house and spend the afternoon there. I'm eternally grateful for that moment and for those last couple of hours I got to spend with my granny before she passed away. I treasure those moments. This was the first time I felt spiritual intuition with a direct link to my body. And because my mother made sure I was raised a good and proper Christian, it was around about that time where I thought, wow, if spirituality can be this potent and effective in guiding me as an individual, then I want to become a pastor. And that's what I said for many, many years until the age of 16. All I wanted to do was become a pastor, to teach the word of God and share these deep and hidden mysteries that one can discover if one had to move inward. This was my life, this was my goal until the age of 16. That's where the second spiritual intuition kicked in, relating to my body, but in a bit of a different way. You see, it was at 16 that I realized, discovered, acknowledged, whatever you want to call that soup of acknowledgement, that I am a homosexual. I'm a homosexual. I'm a total lesbian. And that I was born that way. When I relate to my homosexuality, I relate to it the same way I relate to the freckles on my body. I was born this way, and there's absolutely nothing to do about it. I don't want to change it, the same way I have no need or desire to change the amount of freckles on my body. It's just part of who I am, and I'm perfectly comfortable in it. But this was also 1998, 97, around there. And anybody who's my age will know that Christianity and homosexuality did not gel in the 90s. In fact, I was told that I have jumper demons, and I should go for exorcism. And you can understand how an individual such as myself could just not accept that mumbo jumbo. And that's when I realized, if these spiritual teachers, these pastors, these leaders within church, if they tell me that I'm demon-possessed because of my homosexuality, and I know for a fact that's absolute nonsense, what else are they wrong about? And also, by the way, because I cannot reject my homosexuality, I cannot pray away the gay, or nowadays, good Lord, slice away the gay. That gender ideology is another topic altogether. But because I realized there was this conflict, and the conflict was caused by something internal inside of me that I could not change, I realized I could not become a pastor. So what to do now? Well, I did what every other boeremeissie will do. I ended up exploring every single type of spiritual practice and religious practice that I could get my eager, curious little hands on. And I studied that all my life, and to this day, I am still curiously paging through scripture and books and chain referencing the Bible or going to HPB's books. I'm just seriously curious about anything relating to spirituality. So that's what I did at 16, and that's what I've done up until now. And it was a matric where I remember having this conversation with my good friend jONE. We were sitting in this little water drainage ditch during our break, having our lunch. This is our last year in school in South Africa. And he was asking me, okay, now what are you going to do? What are you going to do next year? Are you going to go to university, or are you just going to go and get a job? Because jONE knew me. And jONE knew that I didn't like primary school. I didn't like high school. I didn't like any aspect of school, which means, well, are you really going to go to university? And obviously my answer was no. If I didn't like primary and high school, what on earth makes me think that I will enjoy going into university, or that I will even be successful at it? So I went into my career. Oh, but still, in this conversation, I was telling jONE, I said to him, I still remember this, and I said to him, look at everybody around us. We are all pushed into a mainstream school and an educational system, university being the pinnacle of it, which means that everybody going there, they are molded, shaped and formed. Their perspectives in particular are shaped in the same way, which means that when they leave university, there's a general perspective, a way of looking and perceiving the world. And surely in all of that, no judgment to those people, we all need them, but surely in all of that mainstream application, there is a place for freakazoids such as myself, somebody who's weird and who is curious about what is hiding behind that bush. I know you're all walking that path. I can ask you questions and learn from you, but I am incredibly curious about what is down that path. And if there's no path, give me a machete. I'll make a path, promise you. I don't need a path to curiously adventure down into some or other impulse. All I need is my curiosity and my sense of adventure. And this is what I did. I went into my work career, and it was throughout my entire work career where I consistently still grew, nurtured and groomed my teaching abilities. I always knew that I wanted to become a teacher. There's a reason why I said I want to become a pastor. I want to teach, and I always knew that it would be a teaching of a spiritual aspect. But honestly, I paused all of those childhood dreams when I realized that I am homosexual and I couldn't go into the church. So I paused all of that. But being in a working environment, I still had that impulse to teach. So all along my 20-year career, I somehow, somewhere found myself in a place where I would at least give training once or twice a month, or maybe even more. The audience really differed between domestic and international across my career. So the teaching aspect in me never died down, and I always groomed it. I nurtured it. I wanted to be a good teacher. So I ended up in construction, and this was just a blessing from the heavens. To at a very young age, with absolutely no tertiary education, end up in an industry that is a perfect match: construction. I ended up in a roofing manufacturing plant. We manufactured steel roof sheeting. This is when a coil would come in, a raw material coil, and you will roll form it through a processed machine into like a corrugated or an IBR roof sheet. I was there for 5 years, worked my way up into an office, got bored, decided, I like the industry, but I want to learn everything about the industry. And that is when I got a job as a contractor. So out of the manufacturing plant I went onto the actual construction site. But I don't like to play small games, so I went into the mining industry. And that's where I did project planning and project management and organizing the production teams, networking with my clients on site, occupational health and safety, risk assessments. I know about all of these things because of my 5 years on the mining construction sites. It's quite an experience. Ask anybody in construction. The mining construction compared to a domestic construction site, it's quite a vast difference. But one thing that is constant in construction when you're a project manager or you're a contractor is the aspect of a porta potty. This is your portable toilets. And that was the ultimate killing point for me. After 5 years, I said, guys, time out. I am totally done with the porta potties. I am going back into manufacturing where I at least don't have to deal a porta potty every day. So I went back into manufacturing, roofing manufacturing. But I moved from steel into concrete. Also, vastly different ways of producing and manufacturing the final product, but still kind of the same client. So I made sure I stayed in the cycle of construction with a specific focus on roofing. And why did I do it? It is basically because when I get curious, I want to know it all about that particular topic. And I was in the concrete roofing manufacturing industry for 10 years, starting out in sales, basically staying in sales, but working my way up as a corner office product line manager is the best way to put it. This was the perfect job for me. After 10 years, I was a boss in a global company. I was traveling the world, and every now and then I even had the opportunity to develop, design, and create new roofing solutions. I loved it. But then again, spiritual intuition with a trigger through my body kicked in at the end of 2020. And it was at the end of 2020 that I realized I can no longer perform my duties within the roofing industry. No matter which direction I wanted to shoot in, my time was up in a 9-to-5 job. So what do I do now? My entire 20-year career came to an end in a heartbeat. Fortunately for all of us, I've always had this inner childhood desire and dream to teach spirituality. And thankfully for me, I've also always believed that even if you have a long career and you know exactly what you're doing and the company loves you and you're working with a lovely company, make sure you have a fallback occupation in your back pocket. Develop an additional skill so that when things crash down, as they do in life is a tough ride, things will crash down. How able are you to adapt from one occupation into the next? You won't be able to do that unless you prepare for it. So, just as a sideline, have a fallback occupation skill in your back pocket, just in case something like this happens to you. And I'm eternally grateful that I always had my spiritual knowledge and my pursuit of it. So at the end of 2020, I realized, I can no longer do my 9 to 5, so what am I going to do now? Childhood dream, trigger, pull the lever, tock, 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 and I activated my spiritual knowledge. You see, I knew at that stage that after all of these years, I observed something very interesting about the vast and the wide range of spiritual practices that I explored and studied. What I noticed was that there is a particular single thread that connects all spiritual practices and all religious experiences. So I thought, well, why not extract that thread, that connecting bind between us all, and why not teach that then as a baseline from which you as the individual can further discover and explore the hidden secrets deep within, the hidden spiritual intelligence that can guide you and keep you safe and still curious about the world. So that's what I did. I extracted the thread. I called it the Art of Sacred Physics. On my website, you get the first 6 parts. I have not yet posted the last 6. So there's 12 parts in total. On my website, the first 6 parts are available. It is woo-woo. It's gonna be woo-woo. I can't just be here and wipe your ass the whole time. Spiritual intelligence is developed through you, yourself. I cannot develop it for you. So you as an individual must show a willingness, an ambitious eagerness as a seeker to move inward, to discover yourself and to test and try out all of these various parts highlighted in the Art of Sacred Physics. So it is woo-woo. Please ask me questions, because I take my duty as a teacher incredibly serious. That is why the podcasts will come out. I take that 6-part baseline sacred physics thread and I teach it in a very practical way, as you will see as we go along. The gender ideology 12-part series that I did is a prime example of how the Art of Sacred Physics functions. Yes, I did a 12-part series on gender ideology as a first shot. It was almost like I started with my passion project. But can you blame me? I was such a tomboy as a child. All I wanted to do was climb trees and play with toy cars, by the way, not Barbie dolls. May drive over the Barbie dolls. I didn't want to play Barbie dolls. I wanted cars and bang-bangs and pit bulls. I loved that. So when I noticed all of the gender ideology madness hitting the mainstream, I was compelled to do a 12-part series on it. I don't expect all of you to go listen to it. Really, gender ideology is a heavy topic. Every time I recorded one part, I was out for like a day and a half. It's just such a heavy topic to go through. And I even stated in the 12 parts, if you as a parent or a child and you are actually listening to my gender ideology 12-part series, sure, you must be so desperate, because nothing I teach there is mainstream, although everything I teach there is relating to what is. No, I don't ask stupid questions. I know the difference between a man and a woman. The question I answer there is, what is a human being? Doesn't that sound a little bit more interesting? In fact, doesn't it sound like the first question we should ask? What is a human being? Before we can even begin to relate and understand what is a man and what is a woman. Jeez, like people. Anyways, let's put the gender ideology madness aside. All you need to know about that, I started out with my passion project. And I don't expect all of you to go and watch it. But for those who need it, It's bloody interesting, I can tell you that. Anyways, so this is what I do now. Let's do a quick recap. I've always known I want to teach spiritual teachings. I am a homosexual. I bring that up purely because of the gender ideology madness going on in the world, and also to explain to you why I am not a pastor today and why I had to find a different way of teaching these spiritual lessons. Then we learned that I have a 20-year career within capitalism, construction, manufacturing, production, but most of all, sales. So you'll often see in my podcasts when I bring in practical examples of how the art of sacred physics works, I actually use sales as a way of explaining it. Can't help myself. I taught sales for 10 years, taught people how to sell a product. Can't help myself, it's in my baseline, it's going to happen. So we've learned that about me. And then, last but not least, what you will learn about me is that I am now also a housewife. So I will not always do a video. After this, I need to go and vacuum my floors, then I need to wash my floors, and then I need to go do ironing. Sometimes, and this is because I apply the art of sacred physics into my everyday actions, be it washing dishes or creating a new product in a global corner office, the practice remains the same and the outcome is always of an elevated aspect. So sometimes I'm vacuuming the floor, I feel inspired by spiritual knowledge, and all I want to do is come and record it and put the lesson out there for you guys. So I'm not going to first then go and shower and do my hair, and then I must go put makeup on. In between, my dog wants to go for a walk. So really, most of the time, you will hear me voice only. But every now and then I will post a video. And for now, this is the introduction video so that you can see I'm the real deal. I'm there like a bear and I'm here to teach. It is the duty as a teacher that I take most serious of all. Okay, well, the duty of a wife is also right up there, right? So, but it's the duty of a teacher and the way I relate to it that I want to just express before I end this video. As a teacher, I realize I definitely do not know everything, but the things I teach are the things I've lived. They have practical applications that will help any individual who seeks to discover more about the true nature of who they are and this reality. But as a teacher, I also know that the best way for me to learn is through interacting with the students. So although I will always say I'm not here to wipe your ass, keep stillness as your only profit, I do ask of you to please send me questions. The more questions I receive from you, the more I learn and the better I evolve as a spiritual teacher. But I'm a teacher. Stillness is your only profit. Please keep that with you. Even if I teach something there, and you think, you must be talking nonsense now, and you go and ask your spiritual leaders and you come back with feedback, you will see me celebrating. Really, that's just the best day ever for me. And take this art of sacred physics. Don't suspend your religious practices. Don't ignore it and throw it away. Take the art of sacred physics and overlay it onto everything your parents and these spiritual institutions have taught you. Bet your bottom. It will elevate the teachings you have been taught. It will elevate you as an individual. The art of sacred physics is like putting your feet in warm water after a long hike. Although only a part of your body is submerged, it has an effect on the entire state of who you are. You begin to feel warm, you begin to feel relaxed, even though only your feet are submerged in water. This is the effect of the art of sacred physics. Overlay it, play with it, and ask me questions if you have no idea what I'm talking about, or you just want to, poke and probe a little bit more. So, that was me in a nutshell. I am jONE, your FreaQy Philosopher, and you are and forever will be my absolute reason.